Fourth weekend, the flag was the centerpiece of the President's Day. It may well be the most visible symbol of the nation's unity, but the idea of a constitutional amendment to protect it is the source of much division. Last week, the Supreme Court ruled the nation does not consecrate the flag by punishing its desecration. Today, in response, George Bush introduced a constitutional amendment which would allow the states to make burning the flag, for example, illegal. The President chose as his backdrop another powerful symbol. ABC's Britt Hume is there.
The White House chose the statue of the Marines who hoisted the flag at Iwo Jima in World War II as the place to announce the amendment. With House Republican leader Michael opening the proceedings and Senate GOP leader Dole introducing the president, the event had a distinct Republican flavor. The president said, though, it was not political.
Patriotism is not a partisan issue. It's not a political issue.
Indeed, there were a couple of Democrats on the platform, Illinois Senator Dixon and Mississippi Congressman Montgomery, both more conservative than their party as a whole. And while there were flags in the windows at Democratic headquarters here today, a spokesman, apparently unaware of the two Democrats' participation, said, quote, "The heroes of Iwo Jima didn't die so they could become a backdrop for some political photo opportunity." And the leader of the Democratic Party's left wing later also criticized the commotion over the flag. Jesse Jackson was at the White House for a commemoration of the 25th anniversary of the Civil Rights Act.
As I travel this country, I see more crosses burning than flags. And that, as a nation with character and integrity, we cannot tolerate.
But other Democratic leaders today were much more careful about seeming negative on protecting the nation's most potent patriotic and political symbol.
I think we ought to correct the Supreme Court decision, if possible by statute, before we move toward amending the First Amendment to the Constitution.
The president obviously feels, and polls say people agree, that freedom of speech should not extend to desecrating the flag. Some legal scholars may not agree, but no amount of legal scholarship will re-elect a politician who gets on the wrong side of this issue. Britt Hume, ABC News, the White House.
Well, here is precisely what the proposed amendment would say. The Congress and the state shall have power to prohibit the physical desecration of the flag of the United States. Those are the words, all the words that will be added to the Constitution. The real question is, do those words have a precise meaning? Here's ABC's Tim O'Brien.
Gregory Johnson would have faced 2 years in prison had the Supreme Court upheld the Texas flag-burning law. If the proposed amendment is ratified, Congress, every state, city, and town would have the power to impose such punishment. The amendment itself doesn't prohibit anything. Laws would have to be passed using the amendment as a guide. Some constitutional scholars believe the amendment will only produce confusion, that the words physical desecration in the amendment are too vague.
We know that in Chicago recently, the flag was utilized as basically a doormat. It's not at all clear whether this particular amendment would apply to that use of the flag.
What about wearing the flag as a blouse, a cape, or a scarf for very special occasions? Under this amendment, scholars say, judges will likely require the defendant to have shown contempt for the flag for any conviction to stick.
Physical touching of the flag in a way that is defiling or displaying it in a way that is contemptuous. I'm quite sure that wearing it on the seat of your pants, which the Supreme Court has upheld in the past, will be included in the definition of physical desecration.
It is a rarely used but bedrock exercise in democracy, taking away from the courts and allowing the people directly to decide whether to limit a sacred right to dissent in order to preserve what many regard as this nation's most sacred symbol. Tim O'Brien, ABC News, Washington.
In a moment, we'll go overseas where the most powerful man in Poland says he will not run for president. And later in the broadcast, developing a new space plane, a recommendation to proceed